before we get into the topic of the week, want to take a moment to thank the Academy, the Intercuties that have already generously supported us through Patreon, found it without us even mentioning it on the show. They are Andrew Christensen and Tushar Sharma, so thank you so much. If you too would like to show your support for the show, head over to patreon.com/intercutpod and you can get access to our episode outlines, the show's private Discord channels, or even early access to Intercut episodes. So rewards start as low as $1. Be sure to check that out.
Shawshank.
Wait, what about Shawshank?
That's what I would rewatch for the first time.
It's a good one.
That's a good one. Yeah, man. When Andy Dufresne crawls through a river of shit, like that's,
damn.
Doesn't your heart just feel warm?
That's another lesson too. Get busy living, get busy dying.
Yeah.
Great film lesson.
Right?
It is.
Good
actually.
callback.
There you go.
That's a good one.
All right, let's argue about WandaVision. We're saving this for the end of this episode and for when I'm drinking whiskey, because we know a lot of you don't want to hear our Disney opinions.
I'm a serious Marvel fan, so listen.
Y'all enjoy your superhero shows, and that's fun. That's cool. I appreciate it. Amanda, admitted fan of WandaVision. We brought her on to argue with us. She is your voice, but Art and I have some feelings, and I think we want to talk about it a little bit. I'm going to start it off just by mentioning I was on our buddy Elliot's live show, his WandaVision recaps, back after episode 6, and me and my bad Marvel opinions went on there and said a couple things. First of all, I had my dumb theory about Pietro that he might turn out to be the actor Evan Peters, and turns out he was an actor.
Yeah,
Not
you
so
went
off
far
there.
out.
Yeah.
I would've loved that.
I also said that WandaVision is getting to the point where it's gonna be hard to reckon with the fact that she's torturing all the people in this town if there isn't another villain who's responsible for this all. Turns out it's a little bit hard to reckon with the fact that Wanda was torturing all these people in this town.
That's the fucking point, Zach.
I also said that after episode 6, they were running out of sitcoms that they were going to parody. They were probably going to parody that whole mockumentary style in episode 7 and then return to somewhat of a typical Marvel movie format. And then we returned to a pretty typical Marvel movie format for the last 2 episodes. So I just want to say that in terms of like my Marvel opinions and getting those out there.
When are the mutants getting here, Zach?
I doesn't seem like that soon. Art, what did you think about WandaVision now that we've seen all 9 episodes?
Well, look, as much as I complain about it, and I had no idea where it was going to go, I did feel it was dragged out. Every time it hit 2 o'clock in the morning, who was there watching WandaVision late at night? All of us, right? So I will give it that. It is that one show.
Time.
Really? Damn.
Yeah, by the time it's done, it's like 5 a.m., yeah.
Yeah, and you are not a person who likes to do the weekly catch-up. You usually are a save and binge at the end person. So
yeah,
my mom was spoiling it for me in the morning, man. I had no choice.
You're like, I have to do this.
She's like, you see White Vision? I said, Mom.
That's not politically correct.
That's his name.
I had to. I had to catch up. That's his name. I had to start catching up on it. Do I feel it bamboozled us? I do. I feel they kind of bamboozled us. I feel that we have had fans that no matter what they get, they're going to enjoy it. I don't think that's a bad thing, but here is my stance. We have always said, let people what things.
Enjoy.
Let people hate them also, all right? Let me give my gripes about WandaVision. They got themselves a hit. Whether you like it, whether you don't, they got people talking about it, right? I got some issues with the show. Overall, it was enjoyable to come in. First off, I think they skimped us a little. I don't know about it being a series and where we have to deal with the entire Marvel logo, the cinematic logo, every single episode. Of course, it's a good logo. Give me a TV one since this is supposed to be a TV show. What if I could call it? The expansive TV. I can't remember what it is. I'll send you the quote so you can put it right here, Zach. Yeah, he called it like a big long version franchise, something, whatever. I'll say it's a movie that they decided to roll out as a TV show. No problem there. But personally, I felt that you also take into account the credits at the end. You know, back in the day, you used to be watching something, it hit the 7:52 time, and you're like, damn, we got 8 minutes to wrap this up. Boy, the kids nowadays, they're reaching their little streaming bar right here.
Yeah, I know. That's all Disney shows, though. That's all the Disney Plus shows, though. It's just like this chunk.
They're serving it to you like a bag of potato chips, practically. It's mostly air. And that's, again, another part of it where I felt that they just diluted it to a degree where fans... See, I made a video on New Mutants and how Disney bamboozled it. And I was surprised how many people came in to defend Disney. Thought I gave some good points. But they were just waiting for that episode 6 drop. And the moment Pietro came in, everyone went crazy because they said, how are you going to hate WandaVision now? You got the X-Men. Everybody was blown away. Everybody thought it was going to be so crazy. The amount of comments I got on the X-Men thing going, don't you feel like a loser? They had the X-Men all along. Boy, those comments disappeared like the Avengers Endgame Avengers. All of a sudden gone. The moment that it turned out that he was fake. So how can we defend a show when it gives us this reveal, but then all of a sudden it turns out that's a fake reveal, and the same people who use it as a positive now go, actually, no, this is a better positive over here. You see, because they got you the entire time. There's too much bamboozling going on. I think they were pushing and pulling, and I agree with Zach. Wanda needs to go to jail for what she did. I don't care if she was grieving.
Yeah, Amanda, how do you defend it?
Defend
that's the thing. Okay, that's the thing. You don't need to understand. You don't need to defend Wanda. She literally says it. Like, Monica's like, don't let him turn you into the villain. And she's like, maybe I already am. And it's like, it's giving it to you. Like, literally, she takes Agatha instead of letting Agatha go to jail. She literally locks Agatha as a character in that city forever. Like, that's not a positive. And like I said in my video that released today, so you can go watch it if you want to, she is literally reading the Darkhold to try to figure out how to get things right. I'm pretty sure she borrowed her kids' souls from somewheres, and now they're trapped somewheres because she says, thanks for choosing me to be your mom. So it's like she put out a fucking casting call, a wide net to bring in some souls, and now those souls are stuck somewhere. Whether that version of Westview is like its own pocket dimension, whether they're stuck in the dream dimension with Nightmare, or whether it's something completely different, those souls are somewheres, and now she's gonna do something else to bring them back, which might be the major conflict, or one of the major conflicts in the next Doctor Strange movie. So it's there. I don't think you need to defend Wanda. I am a huge X-Men fan. Wanda is one of those characters that tries to be good, but because of her emotions oftentimes and the fact that she's so powerful, just does things that she doesn't realize she means to do, doesn't want to do those things, and then it just kind of happens. Like, she destroys a bunch of stuff. She literally says many mutants, then she says no more mutants, and that is literally one of the next big...
I'm excited for that. House of M, yes.
Mm-hmm. And this, we got like a mini version of House of M here, like a little pocket of like the idea of what House of M could become. I don't think you're necessarily supposed to walk away from that thinking that she is the good guy. It's like, yes, I thought it was a really, in a lot of ways, a constructive look through grief. And then it stops when she's just kind of like, I realize I shouldn't do this. We're going to end this. We're going to say goodbye. But then she's in that room, reading that Darkhold, trying to get that knowledge, because that's what she took away from Agatha. Agatha says, you're super powerful, but you don't know things. If you had known how to do this, you could have done it right the first time. So that's what she took away from it. It's like Matilda. It's like Matilda when in the beginning, when it's like, you learn that lesson and it's like, instead of what people do, but it's what children, one of those moments. So like I said, I saw a lot of people complaining that they're like, Wanda's not good by the end of this. And I'm like, I don't think it's necessarily trying to make her seem good, but it is her story. So you're still going to get that like resolution from her where she's having that emotional moment with Vision and letting it go. But like, those townspeople hate her. It's not like they try to do the whole like, oh, Wanda, thank you so much for letting us go from our torture. Like they amp it up. Like the Halloween episode, that woman that's just moving back and forth, like a tear starts dripping down her face. Like they're not trying to
creepy moment.
Yeah, very creepy. There's a lot that this does super well. Ralph Boner, on the other hand, I agree. That was like a bait and switch. That was too much. Like, people were being like, some people are saying like, you guys were getting upset about things they didn't promise, which I can agree when people are upset that Mephisto wasn't introduced or Magneto wasn't introduced. Some people were upset that Nightcrawler, not Nightmare, Nightcrawler didn't show up. So like, those are things that were not even hinted at. I can understand people being upset when you bring in the Quicksilver from a Fox movie and people assume that you've just introduced a multiverse. Maybe they still did.
when-
Maybe there's a way to retcon
Yeah.
it. But even if they don't, and if they do, people being upset right now,
That's even
is
more
justified.
bamboozling.
I know, but it's
Yeah.
justified.
I do think that's one of the more interesting sort of reactions that's sort of come about since the series has been completed, because there were all of these allusions to these big reveals or hints at these big happenings that were going to happen that played into some of the fans' expectations, and also the whole debate over whether fan expectations affect the show, right? If fans speculate the hell out of a property and
Star
it
Wars.
doesn't
Disney's
live up
gone
to
through this
those
so many
expectations.
times.
Yeah, Disney's got you. Honestly, Disney orchestrates a lot of it too, though, especially with
They
stuff like
kn-
this. They're in control of the leaks.
Talk about it.
They leak things. Like this is something I've had confirmed to me, but this is something we all know. Like we all know that they're in control of those leaks. It's guerrilla marketing. They get people to infiltrate different message boards and they post pictures. They post behind the scenes stuff. Some of it's real, some of it's red herrings. It's just to generate the conversation and to get things
And the
going.
interviews as well.
And the interviews.
What was Vision saying? What's his name when he was doing
Paul Bettany?
some of the Paul Bettany was
He said, I get to live out my dream of acting again with myself. He didn't lie.
Nah, that man
Wait,
said
did he
I'm
say
looking
himself? I
Nah.
thought he said like an actor I've
Wanted
always
to work
wanted
with.
to
I
work
was-
I didn't
yeah,
read
he
the
did
quote.
say
I don't
that.
know.
He says it.
He says
said, I'm looking. It is for Esquire's Explain This series, in where he says that he was looking forward to working for an actor. And then he goes on Good Morning America and goes, oh, did they think I was talking about Charles Xavier?
Yeah.
Boy,
You know-
if you don't get out of here.
You know, that's kind of the thing that I actually do think. It's
And I love
kind
the
of a
Vision scene,
fun,
too. Vision and Vision
cute
was great.
Comment.
It is, yeah.
I think it would be a more appropriate thing for Paul Bettany to say if it wasn't about a property that is the subject of this intense speculation,
Yeah.
right? Like if this was the new Ex Machina, right? And Paul Bettany said that in the run up to it, and then it turned out there was like a second Paul Bettany. Like that would be a fun, cute quote. But because of the Marvel machine, when you say something like that, you know the fans are going to speculate, and maybe Paul Bettany just said it off the cuff,
Nah.
but it had consequences.
He said it based off of, oh, you thought, what's his name? Quicksilver was the cameo? Nah, there's a better one. It's literally off of the same subject. Like, again, that's what I'm talking about. They're trying to set it up and then also play dumb. And I was like,
Yep.
you know, as long as you have 60% of the audience eating it up, no one's going to care about the other 40% who sees through the game
That's
that
why I
you're
don't
playing.
pay attention to any of that. I don't listen to it. I don't watch it. I don't look
It's
at
a
it.
part
I
of the
just
release.
watch the show. I just watch the show. I'll watch
Well,
all
what do you
that
think
stuff
about all the
after.
retconning? What do you think about the retconning? Everything that we learned in Ultron is now different. That's not where she gained her powers. Now it turns out that she's
It
been
is
a
where she
mutant the
gained
whole
her
time. Now
powers.
that
That's the okay. I don't think that's retconning. I almost think that's Agatha not understanding the situation. I think that she still gets the power. I think that the powers still are like kind of amplified or at least unleashed from the Mind Stone.
Amplified.
Yeah, but I always felt that. I felt that once they got the rights back to the X-Men, they were just going to retcon that, and the Mind Stone is what gave them their mutant abilities, and that's why she has the witch powers and stuff, because it comes from the mutant abilities, which is why they were the only people who survived the testing, because they were the only people with the dormant mutant genes. Because they said that in Ultron. They're like, you are the only two that survived this, and I can see why. It's because you're passionate. It's like, nah, some mutant genes.
because they got the spunk.
You got this monk. That's what he said. That's what Ultron said. And I'm like, nah, it's the mutant gene. So I don't mind that much. I'm fine with that. Once you introduce Scarlet Witch being a witch, it always gets complicated. And they did the same. Like they did like the comic books. She's a mutant. And suddenly it's like, actually, no, she's not a mutant. They do it all the time. It's annoying, but it's very on brand.
I know, Zach, you hated it, but your opinion on them, the whole aspect of the show is how they're breaking down and they're able to homage all these different series and stuff like that. Besides them not always being consistent in being the show that they're supposed to be representing for that episode, did you think it worked?
I just want to add, like, I don't know if the hate is the appropriate word, because I thought it was an interesting approach to this series. I didn't like how explicitly they explain it in episode 8. I think
A lot of people like that.
First of all, a lot of people already guessed exactly what would happen before episode 8 in a way that makes me feel like your audience is intelligent. Don't explain it to them. Even if it was just that you see a flash of the cassette tape and you don't have to sit down with them while they're literally watching these sitcoms. It just feels over-explained to me. I don't want to say I hated that element, though. I thought it was creative. I thought it was distinct in a way that a lot of Marvel properties don't necessarily feel distinct, but where it let me down was in the lack of the specificity in the writing. That if you're going to try and pay homage to these sitcoms, don't just try to evoke the feeling, try to actually evoke the writing a little bit. Go beyond trying to do cheesy humor and actually give me character that I can respond to. I felt a little bit let down by the ways in which they tried to emulate the sitcoms, aside from Elizabeth Olsen's performance, which I thought was pitch perfect in every iteration of the sitcom. But yeah, did you feel like that TV show within a TV show element worked in WandaVision?
I think it did, personally. I'm not saying it was necessarily perfect, and I understand the complaints from some standpoints, but overall I really liked it, especially like I said, me and my friend had been talking like, oh, it's probably because like she probably watched all these sitcoms back in Sokovia, and it was probably one of these things that brought her great comfort. And to me, I know that episode felt like hand-holding, but to me it was more just almost beating her down emotionally. It's like, we're going to take you to see your parents again. We're going to take you to watch through this, like the last moment you remember being truly happy. Like you're sitting there, you have a big smile on your face. You look at your mom, and your mom, she gives you a little, and then, oh my God, it's visceral. Like you see their backs go, and like they're dead in real life. They're dead, but whatever. And you just see this moment, and it's, I almost think they probably could have cut the part where it's showing her like looking at the blinking. If just show it a couple times, not her reaching out to the blinking, but either that. Yeah. But then I also really like that when it brings her to see Vision, and her and Vision have that conversation, and it's to really hone in on that moment. And then she, Agatha comes up behind her. So it's like, so dead brother, dead parents, dead husband. And she just like, it's like Elizabeth Olsen is fantastic. And I think that a lot of it's hinging on that specifically. But I don't know. I liked those moments. To me, it didn't feel like hand holding. It felt like emotional, like beating people down.
Good point.
Yeah.
I like the story when it starts building up in the last 3 episodes. Sadly, it's the last 3 episodes where you really start getting into that idea of the grief and, I agree. I don't think it's bad storytelling for what she did to the people of the town. I just truly believe she should be in prison.
Trust me, everybody knows she should be in prison, and that's why like Monica was just kind of like, go fast.
Bro, when Monica was like, I would have done the same thing. Get out of here.
Get out of here.
Yeah. Bro, when that woman was like, can I just see my daughter? She's been locked up in the room. Yeah, can I just hold her?
I just want to hold her. I was like, Lord. Oh my fucking God.
I wish that there was more of that at the first half, but I know people are just going to keep saying that, it's a series, you got to wait.
There were still moments, to me, it was, though.
There were still moments, but they weren't as strong as the second half. And I would argue that the second half of the series was a lot better than the first half. Yeah, I didn't really care for the Darby character and all the shenanigans that they were going through. I did like a lot of the elements. Is her name Darcy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's an okay character. I did like. Did you like her?
No, I was just gonna say that. I think I like Kat Dennings. I don't know if I like that character.
Oh, okay.
to me, I feel that. I understand that.
Yeah.
Monica, is that her name?
Yeah, Monica Rambeau. Yeah, Monica Rambeau.
I'm very curious
where they're going to... Tiona Paris, who I've been invested in a while.
I feel like in terms of that's my biggest area of complaint is how they kind of handled her.
Yeah.
Tell me more. I was about to say that she's the character I found to be the most intriguing for where they're going to take her.
Yeah. Where they take her is intriguing, but having this character who you show has literally came back after being dusted and realized that her mom's been dead.
Mom is dead.
There's really
it's crazy.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I thought that was one of the more compelling scenes in the entire run of WandaVision. In that also it fills a gap of knowledge in the greater Marvel canon. I guess.
So that was good, but it was more like she gets these powers and like. There's no moments of her really trying to figure them out. I realized because there wasn't enough time for it. But then she almost just gets co-opted into this role that's like I got a lot of shit going on right now, but I'm going to deal with Wanda's baggage today. And I get that that's like what her character wants to do. And her character is continuously like pushing people away where they're like, we need to take more tests. Like there's something wrong with your scans and all the stuff, like your genetic, like there's a huge anomaly here. And she's just like, no, I'm just going to keep doing this. But it's I can understand how it almost feels like a character is being dealt with in like a cheap way. But it makes me super excited for how they go forward with her, because she's going up to Nick Fury and the next Captain Marvel stuff. So there was like hints of what they were going to do with the character. I think they handled that well. I just think that there's like a few areas where I understand some complaints with how they dealt with her character in terms of like fleshing her out more.
Okay.
No, but yeah, good character.
Yeah, and I think, something that I do kind of want to outline here is, as much as Art and I are necessarily complaining, I think some of that is in reaction to the really, I'm going to call, hyperbolic praise of WandaVision. There's a lot of people who are in love with this show, as is the case with a lot of Marvel properties, and I just kind of feel just way more lukewarm.
That's fair.
Even though there's a lot of elements that I responded to, there's just so many elements that I felt let down by, in a sense, that makes me almost just instinctively push back, even though, like Art was saying, I was tuning in every week.
We're just being Grinches.
Sure.
You're being Grinches.
Yeah.
There's a lot to
I just think, like, when you have all this access and this power, we've talked about it before, the most expensive sitcom forever, or TV show or whatever ever produced, I wish it had gone a little bit further into the supposed Lynchian setup that it's talking about.
Yeah.
I wish that if they're trying to portray Wanda in this really confusing state of grief, that they were more willing to leave the viewer in a confusing, unsettled state. And part of that comes to the idea that Art has mentioned in the past, that I don't think there's really a single episode of WandaVision that I'd singled out as like rewatchable. It's kind of a series, in that.
That's what I always say.
It's one experience, and
it's
so much reliant on the cliffhangers. I don't know if you would go back to
none of the
just one chapter.
cliffhangers. And that's not a bad thing, but when it is a show, you kind of got to judge it by the way it's done. I think it's a lot better watching it all at once. Honestly, I'm more so judging the rollout of having to wait week to week. And I know some people would say, oh, well, that's just television. But again, I'd argue that with it being one season, we have blended movies and TV. This is a movie character that has now been put into a television series, a Disney Plus series, and that's the model that they're really trying to push. And there's no way you could release a Marvel movie and then have nothing else. It would have to be broken up. What the Quibi Boys say, that's the way you got to do it. Give us your movie, make sure you cut it up in separate points so that there's a cliffhanger at every point. That's what this feels like. And the truth is, you can read it in all of their press releases. That is what they are turning these things into.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're just kind of ignoring. It's not bad to enjoy it, but I think it is more enjoyable if it goes back to being that 3-hour project. And it doesn't even need to be 3 hours. You could skim off 30 minutes, which is really just the end credits and the Marvel logo being played 9 times. And you got yourself something that in one sitting I think is more profound than the stretched out, making sure they have your money for the 2.5 months that the show is playing. That's just me.
I'd even go as far as to say that I feel like if these episodes pushed a little bit closer to the like 41-minute mark instead of the 22-minute mark.
And instead of 9, it's 5?
They might feel a little fuller installments, right? They might not feel like little taste. They might feel like full meals.
I think they could have blended the first 3 episodes. I feel like the first 3 episodes, like there was a reason why that's the reason why they gave those 3 episodes to press at first.
Yep.
They could have. Yeah.
I think I've heard actually since in some of the interviews they've been talking about since that the initial plan was to roll out the 30 episodes, but there's been a lot of last minute VFX work. They were apparently working on the finale 2 weeks before release. Even.
That's not surprising.
So this show might not have been quite as ready as we would believe, given how grand it looks.
It does look really good. Like I'm very impressed. Like I get why it's so expensive.
It's a full Marvel movie in a TV show.
It is.
I really liked it. Like,
$250 million budget. I mean, you definitely saw that in that final episode. And I still think that it delivers all of the things that you want within a Marvel property in terms of setting up. Maybe not everything that everybody wanted, but nonetheless things that we're still going to see repercussions of in the future.
Yeah, and I appreciate it for trying to take some chances. I get that it doesn't go so far in the weird direction as it could, or so far in like the, oh my God, but like I feel like it did take a pretty big step away from what you expect from the Marvel universe, while still kind of bringing it back into that towards the end. I'm going to commend it for that, because they could just so easily just keep continuously doing the same thing, and they'd never stop making money. So it's commendable that they would be willing to take a chance with like a weird character to do some weird stuff.
Thank you, Marvel.
Amanda, does this give you any thoughts on where it's leaving us off for the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or maybe Marvel's ability to tackle TV shows as a medium?
Yeah. So I know that there's just like some shows that they care about more. Like there's shows that they care about the spoilers more. So like Loki, that stuff's locked down, but like we've been hearing quite a bit about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So like there's just things you can tell they care about more. And that's going to be very obvious as they go forward with some of these TV shows. I think in terms of WandaVision, like I kind of mentioned earlier, I think there's a lot of really clear jump off points to how this can play into Doctor Strange, and how she could help, kind of not help, but unintentionally facilitate certain multiverse things. Like we've already kind of started that very distinctly with just jumping back in time, and Loki is in the TVA, the Time Variance Authority. So like there's already enough evidence that all that stuff's happening, and it's very clear to see how Wanda could like really mess things up. So I think there's some really clear jump off points there. And obviously we have Captain Marvel, that like Monica Rambeau, that's where she's going next. So in terms of TV, it's almost very easy to see which ones are like the big hitters, and it doesn't mean the other ones aren't going to be good, but it's just like which ones to look for to know what's going to influence what's coming next.
Right, maybe which ones are going to play the bigger role in the actual like story of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Exactly.
Yeah. Art, any thoughts on how it's all going to tie in together and what this means for the future of Marvel?
Same thing that Amanda said. I'm more curious to ask y'all, do you think, and I know it's only been one, but they came out blazing when they were talking about the Netflix ones, that it's better. Do you think it's better than the Netflix Marvel series we've gotten between Daredevil, Punisher, and all that? Because I don't think this season rivals the season one. Because that is, I would say, fair enough to compare. Different network, so what? Different approach.
Yeah.
And I'd like to say that the Netflix ones did a much better job at telling
I want to say
series.
that one of the reasons that I feel like maybe Daredevil and Jessica Jones might be a little bit better is that they kind of feel a little bit distinctive too. Like for as unique as WandaVision is, it still does feel of the same tone as the Marvel Cinematic Universe, whereas the Netflix shows kind of felt like their own
Gritty
thing.
Yeah.
But Amanda, you're more of the Marvel junkie than I am. So what do you think?
I love Jessica Jones. I love it's like the first season specifically. I love Daredevil. There's a lot that WandaVision did that I did really love though. But I'm a huge X-Men fan, so I'm a huge fan of things that Wanda does, and just the idea. I really like that they were willing to blur that line of like, because everyone was like, oh my God, someone's manipulating her. And I'm like, no, I think she's doing this all on her own. And I like that they committed to that. Like, I like that they committed to that. I like that it was very unintentional at first. And then by the time she realized what happened, she was just kind of like, I don't want to let this go. And I like that she kind of got to a point where she had tricked herself into thinking that everything was fine and normal, and that she was making people's lives easier and more simple. Because who wouldn't want to live in a sitcom? Like, that's so nice. You don't have to worry about the stresses of life. I like that they committed to that. So I really appreciate that. I would say that I like it like on par with those. I think those were more shocking at the time because, you know, we were so used to these network superhero shows that weren't always the best, and like the CW stuff that was just super drawn out. So this was kind of like, those are some of our first tastes of these like 10 episode, just get it done, minimal filler superhero television shows. So like I appreciated those for those. They felt new. So by now we're kind of used to it.
Yeah. At the end of it, no matter what we say, whether we like it, whether we don't, Amanda was bringing up how even in her video, she had people yelling at her for things she already said at the video. Exactly. It's Marvel. It's so big. There's going to be strays no matter what. Yeah. I know we always get yelled at. They tell us, stick to the indies. Then we head on over to LME and they're like, stick to the Marvel stuff. So either way, it just really depends on the format that you release it. The format is the biggest criticism that I have when it comes to the show. You know, I know it's going to be the new thing with all of the upcoming shows that they have. It's going to be the way to push Disney Plus. It's going to be interesting to see how they start managing the movies and this, especially with the pandemic having shifted everything around.
Yeah.
This one coming out first when it was supposed to come out like fourth to all of the other ones. So I don't know if they maybe took out scenes from WandaVision to add somewhere else. I don't know.
Maybe that's why there was rumored to be 10 episodes and we only got 9.
Yeah, we'll see.
Smart,
So
smart.
that's why the editing was delayed for a bit. So we'll see how all of that works out. But at the end of it, whether you liked it, whether you didn't, I know all of us tuned in. I know we're all going to be tuning in for the special that's coming up, Winter Soldier, all those different things. I'm hoping to like it a lot more. I still think the Netflix ones are a bit better. But nonetheless, leave us your hate. Leave us your love for the show. Leave us all that stuff down below in the comments.
And if you want to
argue about
if you want a
WandaVision.
safe space, come to my video. There's costume changes and everything.
There are plenty of people to enjoy WandaVision with. We're giving you our perspective, right? Mm-hmm. Hopefully you tuned in because you want to hear our perspective, even if maybe some of the perspective is being slurred.
I sound very smart.
So yeah, cheers, and hopefully you enjoyed WandaVision. If not, definitely let us know if you haven't enjoyed it, but I'm sure you'll let us know if you did enjoy it in the comments below, emailing us IntercutPod, or of course the Intercut Pod Discord. We should move on to our final segment of this and every week. It's the New to See, where we give you our picks for the week, recommendations for the folks to watch at home. Art, anything you want to recommend that people check out?
Since the last time, I know that I brought up some other recommendations that will be mentioned in upcoming episodes. So some of the stuff that I missed, I don't know if we ended up mentioning. I'm trying to find it here. Something that both you and I really liked, and it is not chaos walking. Test pattern. Did you and I get to talk about test pattern on Intercut?
No, we haven't talked about test pattern.
Then let's talk about test pattern.
That was what I was
going
to bring up too.
All right, perfect. Because I didn't even realize
so
that this
good.
is barely getting its full release. I thought it already had a virtual release, but March 12th is when it's getting its entire IFC release. So that's a movie that I would definitely say seek out if you can. I thought it had some very good performances in the film. The behind the scenes to it was the director literally went all out to tell this story, that she maxed out her credit cards because she wanted to make sure she didn't have a studio exec, changing the way she wanted the story to be told. There is some beautiful stuff that's done in flashbacks. Again, the story being about a woman who goes out, an incident happens, and it is how they deal with that incident, not just within the systems that play in America that aren't really set up to help people who are seeking this type of assistance and figuring out what to do, but also how the partners within a relationship don't necessarily have the same, I don't want to say motives in mind, but again, it opens up those conversations into how you tackle a certain incident in different ways.
Yeah, I mean, I compared this movie to Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always, in that it is an examination of women's health care in America in a very kind of unmanufactured, gussied up kind of way. They're just kind of stripping it down to the procedure of it all and trying to show you through the hoops that these people have to jump through whether or not this is something that feels justified, right? Feels like a proper healthcare system. And I thought it was really compelling in not only showing their journey to try and seek this kind of justice, but also in demonstrating the ways in which it both is and is not a healthy way for a couple to interact surrounding a situation like this. I think in many ways, though not necessarily every single thing he does, but in many ways, the boyfriend character in this movie models a positive form of like supportive masculinity that isn't necessarily depicted in a story like this. So I really appreciated the way that it told its story. I thought there were certain sequences that felt, tragically comical. I love the use of the dance of the sugar plum fairies to show them signing into yet another hospital. I think there are really brilliant filmmakery touches here. The use of the red lighting in particular comes to mind that make this movie jump out to me. And to be honest, I think Test Pattern is one of those films that's really going to stick with me. I would not be surprised if this ended up on or very close to my top 10 of 2021 because I don't know. I think there's a lot here. I think Shatara Michelle Ford, the writer-director, is really working with a lot in this movie. I'd highly, highly recommend
I think it's going to be a name that we're going to know for a bit. I'm looking forward to whatever they have next. The whole group, to be honest.
Yeah. The actors in it were a revelation to me. Brittany S. Hall and Will Brill. I know over on the LME Streams video that we mentioned Gail Bean, who's an actor who's showed up in some stuff that we like. I really like her in Results. I really like her in the episode of Atlanta set at Drake's house where she has a bad reaction to some weed gummies. She's excellent in that. She's excellent in Test Pattern as well. So yeah, across the board, I really, really like Test Pattern. I know Kino Lorber is putting this one out in virtual theaters, so I can't recommend it enough.
I'm still waiting to hear back from it, so I haven't had a chance to catch it yet. But
oh, okay.
Yeah, I got the email yesterday, and I was like, hey. Yeah.
Amanda, anything else that you would recommend?
I had something. Oh, I've been randomly. I didn't know that Dickinson was a thing, so I started watching Dickinson.
Right.
That was.
I had no idea what that was about.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was.
It's modern language.
Yeah, and
right?
it's what I think our #J kind of want it to be, because you've got. You know, you're introducing. You've got this like iconic character. It's like it's period appropriate, and then you get some like Billie Eilish popping in, and then you get some like rap popping in. I'm like. I like it. I like it a lot. I think it's quirky and fun and charming. And it's obviously, a lot of it's inferred based on Emily Dickinson's poetry and kind of things that you get based on that and letters she would send back and forth between certain people. So, and then they'll just randomly throw in certain characters like Louisa May Alcott's just randomly in it. But like, they're like, there's no evidence that they necessarily actually met, but it's just like for fun. But I think it's good. And I think it's like an interesting, I'm always interested by these stories that kind of say like, okay, here's all these letters that kind of indicate that something might have been happening here. So let's like explore that versus just being like, well, for some reason she just chose to be single and live with her father forever. So it's interesting. Yeah.
I this was not on my, like, I mean, it's been on my radar, but I have not put it on my watch list. And I went to my brother's house and they were watching it and I was just like, wait, this is what this show is about?
Yeah, exactly.
There were some funny moments in it, so it may be something that I need to add.
It's fun. And it doesn't shy away from pointing out like, no, Emily, you're rich. Like, you need to calm down right now. You're rich. Like, it really, like, it'll play into that. It'll let that kind of stuff happen. So I like it.
Sounds solid.
Yeah.
How's the girl Haley Steinfeld?
Really good, like really good.
Yeah,
she's great. So I was very cool. Impressed by her role. She does it well. Yeah.
Dope.
Yeah, I bought some stock in her career around True Grit, so I'm happy to see that.
It's paying
that
off,
on the rise still.
Yeah.
All right. So that's, I think, about it for this week's show. On next week's Intercut, we are getting into the best Zack Snyder film bracket, talking about what we think is the best Zack Snyder movie. Actually put in some music videos and short films and even a Zack Snyder documentary. Yes, that exists on that bracket. So talking everything Zack Snyder with a really exciting special guest. So make sure you tune into next week's pod. As for now, you can catch me, Zach Shevich, by following me on Twitter, Instagram, or Letterboxd at ZShevic. That's ZSHEV as in Westview, ICH. Amanda, where can people find more from you?
You can find me on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, all at AmandaTheJedi, as in the other property that Disney owns.
Exactly. Art, what about you?
If you weren't already upset over the Wandavision talk, definitely join us next week to get even more upset over the Snyder talk and yell at us over at LME on YouTube, on Twitter. Every week here on the Intercut podcast.
You can listen to every episode of the Intercut podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, your favorite podcatcher. I like Overcast. And then make sure you're subscribed not just to the audio podcast, but to the video feed as well over on youtube.com/intercutpod, where you can catch our bright smiling faces as we run through the latest in entertainment. Find new episodes of Intercut every Monday. And please leave us a comment, like the video. Consider heading over to iTunes to leave us a 5-star review, the much requested 5-star review. Shout out to our listeners everywhere. If you are helping us out, putting us on those TV and film podcast charts. Mm-hmm. Just realizing now, I've been sitting with this empty Sundance mug the whole time and drinking out of this boring clear glass. Like I could have been like in theme and everything. It's so boring. Yeah.
All right, roll it back.
Like our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages. All of them are at Intercut Pod. And check out the Patreon, Intercut Pod. Check out the Discord. Link in the description down below. You can head to all those places to get updates throughout the week from me, from Art, from Amanda, from all the guests that we feature here on Intercut. Thanks again for tuning in. And until next time, Stolat to 100 more.